Hello, hi, welcome to our webinar on Bill C-8. This is Teresa Pierre from Parents as First Educators, and co-hosting with me on this town hall today is Queenie Yu. If you all would like to just leave your name and where you're located from in the chat feature at the bottom, then you're welcome to do that, and we'll have an idea of who's on the call. If you're not familiar, if this is your first time using Zoom, the way to find the chat feature is just to mouse over the bottom of your screen there, and then some commands will come up. And the second one over is your chat feature. We are going to be taking questions from people as we move towards the end of the presentation in a different way than we've done it before. So in our past webinars, we've used that chat feature, but there will be so many people on this call that the chats will move so fast we won't be able to do that today. So if you have a question that you would like to ask MP Sloan, then we encourage you to use the Q&A function. So it's the same, it's at the bottom of your screen. You just hit the Q&A button, which is your last button, and put your questions in there, and then we'll be asking them to Derek Sloan. So I would just like to welcome our guest today, MP Derek Sloan. He is the MP for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, and has been since November of 2019. Before that, he was a lawyer, and he was involved in the first Trinity Western case of 2015. And before that, he ran several small businesses in the Oshawa area. So a very warm welcome to you, Derek.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Okay. The topic of the webinar today is the so-called conversion therapy bill, or Bill C-8. And if you have questions that you'd like to ask us as we go along, just please direct them to the Q&A function, which you can find at the bottom of the screen. If you mouse over the bottom there, you'll find the Q&A function. And if as we're expecting, we get a lot of questions and we can't take them all, they will be sending out a wrap-up email afterwards, and you will be able to just respond to that email and ask your questions that way. So don't despair. If we can't get to you today, you will be able to ask your question. Okay, I'd like to just turn the floor over now to Queenie Yu, who's going to begin by asking Derek some questions.
Hi, Derek. Great having you today.
Glad to be here.
So Derek, you've been an entrepreneur and a lawyer. What motivated you to leave the private sector and run for office? And what made you decide to run for leader of the Conservative Party of Canada?
Well, I got into politics because I wanted to make a difference. And I saw that the government was moving in a direction where they were, doing more than just wasting money. I mean, wasting money is irritating, but it's not necessarily a reason to leave everything you're doing and do something else. So as a small business owner, I was, irritated by government waste, but I ran my business and made the best of it. But I noticed that they were moving in a direction where they were trying to socially engineer society. They were trying to take away our rights. They were trying to interfere with people's religious views. They were trying to interfere with parental rights with children. And I just, I realized that if, someone like myself and others like me didn't get involved, then the country would start to head in a bad direction. So I made a pact that I would, so long as it would open, I would walk through it. And that's what I've done every step along the way.
Good for you. Now, you're a father, a family man. You spoke about your rights as a parent. Specifically regarding Bill C-8, the conversion therapy bill. How do you feel about your rights as a parent?
Well, it's very frightening. And, we're living in a scenario right now where the education regarding sexuality has become so unhinged from the science, in the sense that they're teaching, gender theory and all this stuff as if it has a solid, the idea that there might be, 100 genders or something like that is being treated as if there's serious scientific validity to it. And it's confusing kids. And we see examples of that. We see examples of that in Ontario. We see examples of that elsewhere. And one of the biggest examples of that is the the increase that we've seen amongst kids who believe that they're a different gender than what they've been born with. And, we're seeing it increase significantly. So, it's either something in the water, or it's something in the air, or maybe it's something in the schoolroom. It's certainly not genetics. You don't see a 7 or 8-fold increase of something over 5 or 10 years when it's genetics. That suggests that something else is involved. So we're seeing some frightening trends, and Bill C-8 is basically saying, if your kid is confused about such and such, they can only be confused in one direction. You can't, encourage them to remain whatever gender they were born with. You have to push them in a certain direction, and that type of bill is just wrong. And it's going to impact many parents who, whether liberal, conservative, or something else, they're going to see their kid and they're going to say, pushing my kid down a step of medical intervention is a big step, and I don't want to do that. And I think we're going to find a lot of people running into this law if it ever gets enacted.
Mm-hmm. For those who aren't parents, why do you think they should be concerned about Bill C-8? Like, does this bill really affect seniors, for example, or young adults? Some critics, like the Toronto Star, claim that you're being hyper-sensational about Bill C-8. Should we be taking this seriously?
Well, I mean, if we look at the facts, and the facts are that many more kids than usual are presenting with gender dysphoria, and the bulk of those kids will grow out of it. What that, we're talking 80+% of kids will grow out of feelings of gender dysphoria. What we are saying is we have a pandemic of children identifying as gender dysphoric, and instead of helping them deal with that, we're going to push them on a road to irreversible surgery. So I think anybody, whether you're a parent or a grandparent or someone who might become a parent, this is a social issue that affects all of us.
Mm-hmm. Now, Derek, you're an MP, which means that you vote for bills that could become law in Canada. Would there be any circumstance in which you would vote for Bill C-8? For example, if certain amendments were made to the bill, or if some terms were changed?
No, I can't see any way that I would vote for a bill like this at all.
Okay. You have been clear about your opposition to Bill C-8. What about other CPC leadership candidates? Do they agree with you, and other MPs, whether conservative or in other parties?
Yeah, so Peter MacKay, of course, has attacked me for my views on this. Aaron O'Toole hasn't really said much of anything. Apparently, he made some comments behind the scenes, but certainly has not taken a strong stand on it. And if you don't take a strong stand on it, you're going to get pushed over, because the media and other forces are really pushing this type of agenda. So, neither of those two candidates have said anything. Leslyn Lewis has certainly expressed concerns about this bill. She hasn't been as vocal about it as me, but she has certainly come out on the right side of it. So
good. Now, there's some people who are discouraged about the erosion of parental rights and the breakdown of the family on a societal level. Some say that politics is corrupt and there's nothing we can do to change things, so they choose not to get involved. What would you say to these people?
Well, you should get involved, because if anybody can win and become the leader of a major party, and if you get someone who agrees with you on Bill C-8, then they can actually do something about it. So if you can get someone elected that has the same values as you, you might as well do it. And so a year ago I was nobody. I was someone running to be a politician, but I wasn't elected. And now I may very well become the leader of the party. So normal people can do things. And I would encourage people to get involved. Absolutely.
Okay, well, that leads me to my next question, which is, what do you suggest we do to stop Bill C-8? How effective is it to write and call and visit your MP about Bill C-8?
Yeah, I think it's very effective. I think the things that matter the most are in-person meetings and emails or letters that you have written yourself. Handwritten letters always get read. Emails that they can tell were written by somebody get read. We also get these kind of form emails. Like one morning, every day there's some kind of form email about some environmental issue or some other issue, and we'll have like 15 or 20 or more of them on the same issue. We don't really pay as much attention to those. If you write it yourself and your MP knows that it comes from someone in someone in their own writing, that makes a difference. And, going and meeting with them, makes a difference for sure.
Okay. I'd like to mention a couple of other suggestions that we have. So you mentioned that letters really need to be in your own words. We do have a set of talking points at our website to help people, because some people sit down and they're like, they feel like they don't know what to say. So you can go to our website, which is paif.ca, and there's a tab there for Bill C-8, and there's a link you can follow to some ideas to help you write your letters. But we, as Derek has said, we really encourage you to make it your own and not to use the word for word wording that you find there. You will also find at that tab our petition against C-8, and we really encourage people to sign that, and to let people know on social media that these things exist. You can share our petition on Twitter and Facebook, and that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so I'd like to move on to my next question, which is, what other pro-family and pro-life, parental rights, issues are you pushing as a leadership candidate, Derek?
Well, I am pro-life as well, and I have a 12-point pro-life plan. And I'll get Ashley to throw it into the chat room there, just so people can click on it if they like. So it deals with a variety of issues relating to abortion and also euthanasia. And I think it's probably one of the boldest plans that's been put forward by a leadership candidate in recent memory. So I'm concerned about the expansion of euthanasia, concerned about abortion as well, and I'm concerned about tax policies that harm families that are doing homeschooling or making other choices for education.
Okay. Did I read somewhere that you would also propose income splitting?
Yes, so I would propose that. I'm certainly in favor of that. One other thing I should mention that's part of my platform. So I have said that gender transitioning surgeries for kids should be illegal. Period. If you're 18, under 18, there should be no either pharmaceutical or surgical interventions, either puberty blockers or surgical interventions. That's something that, if adults want to make that decision, they can, but it shouldn't be something that kids are doing.
Okay, so yes, they've done that in the UK under Boris Johnson. So that's really encouraging for us here in Canada, and that's fantastic to hear that you would be in favor of the same thing. That would be such a relief to parents. So,
and I can tell you, I am the only candidate that has gone that far.
Okay, all right, great to know. You're an individual with family values and strong personal convictions. Of course, everyone that's in your writing doesn't always share those same views, and everyone is basically a unique person. So when it comes to voting for legislation, how do you reconcile those two things?
Well, you have to vote for what's right, and you have to do what's right. And I don't think, nobody else separates their life philosophy from, what they do as a politician. Like if someone's an environmentalist, you don't expect them to put their environmental values at the door. You expect Elizabeth May to vote in favor of her interpretation of what's best for the environment. So, I think we need to do what's right. Now, having said that, I think we also need to work to explain why we believe what's right and look for common ground. I think those are valuable as well. But, to me, there's no separation. I mean, the values that you hold are based on the way that you look at the world, and it's no different if you're a Christian or a non-Christian or any other life philosophy that you follow. And I believe that people need to be consistent.
Okay. Do some ways of contacting your MPs have more impact than others? say, writing a letter more than a phone call, for instance?
Yeah, so written letters always get read. Even if you type it and send a physical letter, I think that's good. They can see the address on the letter. They know that it's someone in their writing. So I think that is valuable. Trying to meet with your MP is valuable. So those would be the best ways to go about it.
Okay. For some of the more controversial bills, it's the case that sometimes MPs and MPPs decide not to show up to the vote. Are there any conditions under which you would choose to not turn up for a controversial vote?
No, and any bill that has some sort of moral component to it, I would certainly be there for it.
Okay, great to know. All right, that's the end of our questions from PAFE here. I'm just going to ask Queenie, have you received some questions in the question and answer feature?
Yes, so I'm just going to summarize some of the questions that are similar. Have you found in the past 8 months or so a positive shift at all in the thinking from Conservatives regarding issues that you're passionate about?
Well, I talk about them all the time, and I seem to be doing pretty well in the leadership. A lot of these issues do resonate with the base. I mean, like a bill like C-8 is just so out of line when you actually look at the dynamics of what gender dysphoria is and how many kids it's affecting and all that type of stuff. So I think that these are issues that really we can advance them in amongst normal people in the general sphere, and I think that we can win on these kinds of issues. I really do think I think that this type of law is so out of line that we have to fight back. I mean, I think there is room to advance a narrative on this issue, and I think we should do it.
Great. Now, some of your supporters are saying they're very supportive of you and your pro-family, free speech, other issues like that. But they also want to know more about your vision for the economy, job creation, businesses, taxes. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. So I have a great plan to bring us out of the COVID depression that we have. Obviously, it begins with doing things that we would want to do anyways. It means getting our energy sector back on track, which impacts jobs not only out west, but right here in Ontario. There's very few towns in Ontario that don't have manufacturing that's linked to natural resources. So we need to get our energy and natural resource sector back on track. We need to make sure that we're cutting taxes for families and small business to promote growth and entrepreneurship. And we need to cut waste in the federal government. So, I can start with cutting funding for foreign abortions overseas. I mean, we spend almost $1 billion on that. There's $600 million put towards a media bailout. There's many things that we can cut and put towards programs here for Canadians.
Great. What's your stance on parental rights concerning mandatory vaccinations for elementary school children? And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead and finish that question.
Would you vote for or against any bill put forth in regards to enforcing mandatory vaccines for school children?
No, so I'm against mandatory vaccinations, and I would never support mandatory vaccinations.
Okay. Could you talk about your views on freedom of speech, especially in the universities, perhaps in the CBC leadership race itself?
Yeah, so I've said a lot about free speech. I've said that universities need to promote free speech, and if they're not protecting free speech, they're not going to get any federal funding from me. I've spoken about free speech within the Conservative Party, and I've pledged to never interfere with a local nomination race where people are selecting a local candidate. I've spoken about censorship on social media. We have a social media right now that is censoring people, that is canceling people, and I will put in a law that makes it basically impossible for them to do that unless a person is breaking a known law of Canada. So right now they're just making up, they have their own, I don't know how they do it, but they tend to come down hard on Conservatives, particularly when Conservatives are talking about issues like sexuality. So those are the things that I put forward.
Okay. Could you talk about your ideas regarding immigration?
Yeah, so I've said that we need to reduce our immigration levels. And right now our immigration levels are higher on average than other developed countries. And so I've said that we should reduce it from about 350,000 people a year to 150,000 people a year. And the reason I've said that is because the immigration levels impact are many things. They impact middle-class wages, they impact housing prices. And one of the major reasons why we've seen such an increase in housing prices in the GTA is because we're letting in more immigrants on average than almost any other city in North America. So Toronto has been growing for the last several years much faster than other cities in North America. We've been trying to keep up by building more housing units, but we're just not able to do that. So we need to bring our immigration levels down to a point that is not a strain on our housing and on middle-class wages.
Great. And Derek, could you speak to us about the carbon tax?
Yeah. So the carbon tax is not really helpful for the environment. It goes into general revenues. It doesn't go towards anything environmental at all. And I'm against a carbon tax. I would not implement a carbon tax. There are things we can do that actually impact the environment. One example is there's millions of liters of raw sewage, untreated wastewater that's dumped into the St. Lawrence River every year. And we can put investments into local infrastructure to prevent that. So there's real things that we can do that actually impact the environment, and the carbon tax is not one of them.
Okay. Would you consider defunding the CBC and universities for pushing their ideological propaganda and silencing free speech?
Yeah, so as far as universities go, yes. Any university that doesn't promote free speech or promotes cancel culture and all this type of thing, yes, I would cut funding. As far as the CBC goes, I think that their funding needs to be reduced significantly. I think there needs to be a change up in the board there. But I think a public broadcaster could have its uses. There's large portions of the northern section of this country, the only media they don't have TV, they don't have radio, except for CBC radio. So I think there is some nation building aspects that CBC could contribute to, but they definitely need to be reformed.
Great. And Derek, what's your stance on oil and gas and the energy industry in general?
So I think the energy industry and our natural resources are a gift to Canada, and I think we need to use them properly. And our oil that we extract here is done in a way that's far more environmentally friendly than other countries. And a lot of people don't know that we import oil. Canada has the third largest proven oil reserves on Earth. It depends how you calculate that, but it's one of the highest. And we're still importing tankers of oil from Saudi Arabia and other places. That's just not right. We sell our oil at a discount to the United States and then buy it back from them because we can't even refine our own oil in our own country. So I think that energy independence needs to be a goal for Canada, and we need to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. It's a way to accelerate our standard of living and pay for programs that we need here in Canada.
Great. Now, assuming that Trump gets reelected, do you feel that you could work well with President Trump?
Yeah, I think it's the time for us to have the greatest relationship with the United States that we've had in recent memory. And I know that Donald Trump wants to work with other countries. He would have done more to help Canada if Justin Trudeau hadn't insulted him and tried to be, holier than thou and, trying to be cool with the media elite. So we absolutely need to work with our allies to the south. And, with the United States on our side, there's a lot that we can accomplish.
Okay. Now, it's clear that you are socially conservative, yet many other CPC MPs across the country are not. If you were to become leader, how do you expect these other MPs to respond to your positions on controversial issues?
Well, I would say the bulk of the caucus, at the very least, understands. Certainly more than half of the caucus, in my view, are outright social conservatives, and the rest of them understand what we're talking about. And many, regardless of their backgrounds, have expressed concern about this bill. Really, the issue is whether they think that they can win an election on these issues. So they need a leader who's willing to push these issues from the top. And if such a leader is there, I'm confident that the caucus will more or less, not to a person, but more or less fall in line.
Okay. Would you work with Maxime Bernier, or how would you encourage him and his supporters to work with the CPC?
Well, I think People's Party of Canada voters will naturally support a truly conservative leader. And I've had many people from the PPC reach out to me. The local guy that I ran against, who is the local PPC guy, he is officially endorsing me in this leadership, and I've spoken to many others as well. Maxime Bernier tweeted in support of me when I was getting attacked for my comments on Dr. Tam earlier. So, I think that, people who voted for PPC did so because they felt that the Conservative Party wasn't conservative enough. But if they are conservative, I think that they'll vote for them again.
How do you think Canada dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic? What do you think we could have done differently, if anything?
Well, I think we did. I think we dealt with it very poorly. I think we were, first of all, slow to act. And then when we did act, we just, slingshotted in the other direction by doing too much. We obviously took the World Health Organization at its word. We didn't listen to countries like Taiwan, for example, that were raising alarm bells very early on. And, we should have done travel bans earlier than we did. But, the idea that we should have done a complete shutdown, extended shutdown for months and months, I don't agree with that. I think that there was room for specialized isolation when it comes to seniors and other immunocompromised people. But I don't believe an entire shutdown was warranted. And I don't think the data will support that. There's people that, lost 20, 30 years of work in their business. Their businesses have gone under. And, we can't be shutting down every 2 years or every 6 months whenever, we get another pandemic or another SARS or COVID or something like that. So I'm against that. And yes, I have said that we need to defund the World Health Organization. They're politically compromised, and it almost seemed like they were trying to give us the wrong information. I mean, it was just uncanny. No matter what, no matter what the right information was, they were always saying the opposite. So it's really unfortunate.
Queenie, I'd just like to interrupt because we have limited time left. And if I could just ask, Derek, do you have a few more points that you'd like to make about your vision for Canada and parental rights in Canada?
Yeah, sure. So I think the only chance for the Conservative Party is to have a bold leader who's not willing to compromise, because the Liberals traffic in controversial issues. So if you don't hit the controversial issues, then you have nothing to talk about, and we need to take them to task for what they're doing. I think we can win when we deal with these things. I think that we have the logical upper ground. It's just about getting our message out. So for anyone who's more interested in seeing what I'm about, they can watch the Conservative debate, which is on the Conservative website. They can go to my website and see more of my policies. But I encourage them to support me in this leadership race, and they can do that either by voting for me or volunteering or even donating to my campaign. And you can see all of that at my website. So thank you for all the positive comments. I'm just reading some of them here in the chat room. And thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. I just wanted to make a couple of points about things that people can do in response to Bill C-8. So we mentioned the really important letters to MPs, and that we have some resources at our website, which is pafe.ca. If you go to the top, there's a tab for C-8, and there's some just talking points, but we do encourage you to make those your own, to reword them so that every letter looks individual. If you don't know who your MP is, you could go to our ourcommons.ca/members/en. So that's ourcommons.ca/members/en. And you can type in your postal code. It will pull up your MP, and you just click contact to get their contact information. As well, at our website, you can find the link to our petition. against C-8. And if you can forward that information out on your social media, that would be terrific. Another really important connecting point to take advantage of the summer, if you can, would be to reach out to your pastor, your spiritual leader, and ask them to use the communication tools that they have available to let people know about writing letters, signing petitions, and that would be terrific. So I just want to make one final plea. If it's possible for people, and we understand that people are under financial strain right now, but if it's possible for you to make a donation to PAIF, we'll be able to continue to make these presentations available. Our donation information is, again, paif.ca/donate. And that's about it from our side. So I just wanted to thank Derek again for being with us. I've learned a lot about you, and it's all very consoling for a parental leader to have such a strong advocate. Best of luck in your campaign, and we'll be in touch with you.
Well, thank you so much. I was glad to be on with you all today.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.